So good afternoon and welcome to Political No Brainer, the podcast where we move past winner takes all politics and into real conversations. I'm Jeff Rabinowitz, and this season we're bringing in voices from all sides to challenge assumptions, bridge divides, and build a better understanding of today's biggest issues. And the greatest person I love to bring on this show to do just that is Banks Helfrich because he is a problem solver. He's been at this game a long time. This will be his third run for office, and we do believe that this is the third one will be the charmer. So, Banks, welcome along. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about how things are going on the campaign trail first, and then I'll get into the meat of the topic we're going to discuss today.
All right. Hey, Jeff.
Hey,
I was just writing down political no-brainer and the no, the no part, I put down K-N-O-W. No,
that could be better.
no brainer. It kind of oxymoron there. I had to mark it off. So yeah, how's the campaign going? I'm about 15 months out still from the actual election. So it's a lot of meeting people, and just letting them know who I am and that I am running for office. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was at Dollar Tree getting some balloons and props for one of the things that I do. And the lady behind the counter, I pull out my card and I say, "Hey, listen, I'm Farmer Banks Helfrich. I'll be I want to be your state rep up in Tallahassee. I'll be on the ballot in November." Boom, November 26th. So yeah, it's just letting people know. And most people have never met a politician or someone who is that represents them. Most people haven't.
So,
So yeah,
I
a lot
go
of
ahead.
that.
I
I'm
think
doing a lot
that's
of that.
great the way you get out there in front of people. I mean, you are the most active candidate I've ever known. And like you said, 15 months. Sometimes the rule is be a candidate for as short a period as possible. I think the rule should be with people like you be a candidate because you really get out there and people love to meet you. People love to talk to you. And you're not just going, hey, vote for me. You're telling them why. And sometimes you're putting your neck on the line. You don't know what their reaction's going to be, but you're doing it. And
Yeah.
that's what we need more of, really. We need more of it.
Right. Usually I ask them, what's your issue? What's your problem? Um, in fact, this week I just took a 5 month project. A pig farmer came to me and said, I need a conditional use permit in Lake County. And I took the husband and wife. We had a conversation with the county commissioner. From there, we got a phone call with a lawyer. From there, it was brought up at the P&Z for the Lake County. It was approved. Now it's going to be put in front of the county commissioners. More than likely, it will be approved. And that is basically a 5 to 6 month problem issue that we're going to come to fruition with. And that's what I do. If if we stop arguing about political figureheads or parties and we just talked about the issues, we would all get along. Yeah, we need to fund more for education to teach our kids critical thinking. Yeah, pretty much we all agree with that. Now, we all don't agree with, putting money towards that. But I mean, if we just put our minds for solutions, we could work together.
So this is again, and you have not been elected yet, but let me just say this. You took on this project. You're going to help these people get this unconditional operational permit that they so dearly need. And this is what politicians should be and often are focused on in office is helping people. I happen to remember Ginny Brown Waite. She was in Lake County. She would help veterans get help. That was really her wheelhouse. But your wheelhouse is so many other things, and that's what you're going to do when you get elected to office, right? And that's what we need. And so that's why I keep saying we need Banks. We need more people like Banks. We need people that are going to actually pick up the phone and and listen to their concerns and you really try to help too. So I mean, I don't know, you might be on the job 24 hours a day for all I know. And I think you're the kind of guy that'll answer the phone late at night.
I
And
will answer the phone. If our politicians are not serving the constituents, the citizens. If we're not serving them, what are we doing? We're just taking the money and spending it for ourselves, or we have to serve. And that means answering the phone. That means going to bat. This situation at the P and Z in Tavares, I stood up and supported the regenerative pig farmers that they are. They're doing sand pits rather than, mud and water pits. This is the new cutting edge way to raise pigs and to have the best meat. Um, the point is, if we're not doing this, and I'm doing it now, which means by me doing it now, I'm not even in office. I'm not in office. If I'm doing it now by not being in office, people look at me and go, you know what? He solved that pig problem. You know what? He's going to solve this bee problem. You know what? This issue that's coming up as far as property insurance costs being high, he's working on that problem. If I'm doing it when I'm not in office, I'm going to do it when I'm in office. You
And you're
know,
actually going to do it better because you know why? You're going to have a staff, which
Yep, yep, yep.
and that's critical. I mean, you can't do everything. You can't open every email. You can't analyze every thought that's coming from those emails. You need a staff, and you will have that. And
Yeah.
that's what we need. I mean, I'm not knocking anybody, but we got a representative who just keeps getting reelected, and you can't even get the guy on the phone. He's a Washington D.C. U.S. representative. He moved his district a few years back from the 10th district to now he's in my area, and I don't even know why he's there. I mean, I guess he gets reelected, so he's going to stay there till the end of time. Um, but you can't. I tried calling him. He sends me an email. It's sort of a conjectory kind of, he's not. He's very happy with the president, so that's how the email all starts. And then, are you happy with the president? And then, so what's the point of me responding? Because he's not going to respond to my response. He just wants to hear a lot of fanfare to his way going in his direction. But that's not really what we need. We don't need that. We need.
Um, at a congressional level, and I will, um, I know who you're talking about. At a congressional level, he has what, 2 million, 1 million, maybe 2 million constituents. That's a lot of constituents. My district has about 151 constituents. So I
151,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 151,000.
151,000.
And that is doable. I mean, if I was a county commissioner or the county commissioners, they have like 270,000 constituents. That piece of being a representative, that piece of service is majority of the time. You're not in chambers making decisions. You're doing that twice a week or twice a month for maybe 3, 4 hours at the most. The rest of the time, you are servicing the community. You are in the communities. You are listening to the constituents say, "I've got this problem. Can you help me?" And boom, that's what we do. I mean, that's what we need to do majority of the time. And I'm doing it now. I have the I'm semi-retired, so I have some time. I am neglecting my farm at times. I do neglect the farms, but I still put in about 10 to 15 hours a week in the farm.
But you're out and about a lot, right, Banks?
Yeah, yeah. Today's a long day. I've got two parties tonight after Fourth of July parties, and I've got a meeting with a city council candidate who's running for Groveland to sit down and see what I can do to help. What do you need? How can I help you?
Yeah, and that's great because that's what and I think we're getting to that point really. I do think it sometimes, I feel like the feeling is, uh, especially on a national level, we're going backwards on certain things. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we do need to reanalyze. Maybe we do need to regroup. Maybe we do need to even have this wrecking ball effect to realize what we had was so important and we really want it back. And maybe we do need to compromise. I know we haven't seen a lot of compromise. It's always been winner takes all. So, and I do think young people are getting more and more entrenched in what's going on today, and that's a great thing too. And like you said, we've discussed so many different things. Me and you, like I told you, I had educators on the show the other day. I had Bill Mathias. I had Daryl Blackall, who runs an academy for kids who have trouble graduating high school, but they have an alternative to actually getting a real high school diploma. He runs a great charter school in Orlando. And I had so Bill Mathias is stepping down, and I'm forgetting the guy's name. You know who I'm talking about. That's running for Bill's position. The
Yeah.
Mineola man.
Um, his name is
How the hell did I forget that?
Pat Kelly.
Pat Kelly. We have Pat Kelly on. I talked to you about the new approach to public schools in Groveland, the smaller schools. The kids can literally ride their bikes to. Now, so this is not a national referendum on environmental thinking, but this is an idea where kids can get their exercise. They can ride their bikes to school. They can put aside their cars for half, as they get older. You can think, I don't need the car today. I'm going to use my bike today. This is a mindset we're creating. This will have a bigger effect in the long term than some massive piece of legislation in Washington. And I see it happening. I see it, even though I get all the emails and all the conversations about what's terrible in my mind, it's many of my people's minds that what's terrible, what's going on. I see that it ultimately will have some positive change out of all this in both directions. So politicians like yourself running for office, answering questions, doing the job that they haven't even been elected to do just yet. You're doing it. You're doing the job. That's what we need. And that's a really something special that's going on right now. In today's society, we can really look at that as a positive when in fact there's often we point out the negatives.
Right.
So
You mentioned the young kids today, and I don't remember myself being this way when I was younger. Um, I'm I make my own path, and I didn't join a party when I first started voting. In fact, I think I was an independent. Anderson was the first one that I voted for in high school. Anderson was an independent. Um, and nowadays the youth are disenfranchised by both parties, majority of them, and they are, more NPA, no party affiliate, or they're more independent, because they don't want to be a part of that back and forth, that ugliness that's happening. Um, and how do you get them engaged? I always say yesterday I was tabling, which basically uh, the Democrats had a table at the Fourth of July event in Claremont, and we were there, and people are walking by, and here's some information on voting, here's some information on this. The Democrats would come up, or those interested would come up, and the other ones we would just say, here's some information, and some of them didn't want to participate, were not interested at all, which is fine. How do we get them interested in our government? Because if we do not participate in our government, we lose our republic democracy. We lose our constitutional republic democracy. And it seems to me that the only way that they will become involved is if something bad, I mean, they lose their Wi-Fi. Wait, I can't have any Wi-Fi. And I say that jokingly, or, with what Biden did was he gave forgiveness for college tuition, found out that these kids were getting out of college, tough time getting a job, couldn't pay for the loans that they took out, and gave forgiveness so that they have a foot forward coming out of college. And they didn't take it. Which I don't understand the concept behind. No, well, I'll pay for it. My son was very disenchanted with it. I was like, what? You don't have to pay for it. You get forgiven for this. One Christmas, I went to my sons and I said, you know what, you two, you don't have to pay me back all the money that you borrowed for the last, 25, 27 years. That's how old they were. And the oldest one looked at me and was like, oh, because he was not getting a gift. And he goes, oh, okay. So that was thousands of dollars. The point I'm trying to say is, how do they get involved? And I'm going to give you a quick story. November will be 2 years. I became sober, and my friends, my family told me I had issues in drinking. And it wasn't until I decided to do it did it happen. And once I was like, yes, I don't want to be drunk anymore. And when I did that, This is the same parallel with kids of today. They need to get to a point where, like, wait a minute, I can have control over my world. I can vote, I can participate, I can run for office. And once that gets in their mindset, then they will do it. Then they will participate. Because I did not start participating in government until around 2000. It was the 2000 Bush Gore presidential election, and that's when I woke up and I was like, wait a minute, 9 people are going to decide who our president is, which is the Supreme Court.
Right, right. And then ultimately that election was decided by 240 something votes. A national, probably 100, at the time back then, you'd average about 140, 125 million votes nationally. But 240, I don't know the number. It's in the 240. 240 votes in Florida decided that election. The Supreme Court ruled that that was the final count, but the reality is that 240 votes decided a national election. And so another example, I love the way you talked about what gets kids involved. So I'm gonna tell you a funny story that I think is funny. Uber, in Orlando, there was a very powerful taxi company. I won't say their name. Yellow Cab Taxi Company. And Uber was really, it's made all the difference in the world. It's either been an industry disruptor or just an industry crusher. So in Orlando, especially, I feel like they decided they're going to put these enormous fees on Uber rides to just give this big company a fighting chance again. Young people rose up in numbers, and ultimately the fee didn't go in place. Young people like Uber. This is the moral of the story. They rose up and they made all the difference in the world. And they changed the whole trajectory of the vote. It seemed like the vote was going to go in favor of these impact fees on Uber rides, but it did not. So young people do have a lot to say on what goes on in America, just like you said. But do they have skin in the game? That's what it all is about. How do young people realize how much skin in the game they have, even though it's not something that directly relates to them, like an Uber ride? You go out and party all night and just have a car come get you in an instant on an app.
Yeah,
Uh,
the Gen X, Y, and Zs, if they showed up at the polls and voted, they decide the vote. It's not us boomers.
no, not at
It
all,
is it,
not at
it is
all. And we want
them.
to get them in there.
Yeah, yeah. And a couple of things that we have against voting is that the in 2020 during COVID, the states relaxed the vote, the election laws to make sure that everybody could vote. They didn't have to show up at the polls, and by doing that, they had one of the highest percentage of people voting, which is great. 2024, they clamped it and they made it a little bit difficult for people to vote. And I personally think that we need to make sure it is easy and secure for every voter, every registered voter in the United States to vote. Okay. And by doing that, not putting so many restrictions on people to vote. In the state of Florida, every 2 years we get kicked off of vote by mail, which means every 2 years we call up our supervisor of elections and we give them our name, our last 4 digits of our social security, and our date of birth, and we ask to be put on a vote by mail to be sent out to us. It used to be every 4 years. It used to be once you were on, you were always on. Why do we restrict that? Why don't we allow it? I would love Florida to be like Utah, and that is everybody gets a vote by mail ballot at the beginning of every single election. And they don't have issues of fraud, widespread fraud. Why can't we do it here in Florida? That is, everybody would participate, people would come out, voters would feel like their vote was being counted, and it's easy to vote. Not hard. Do not make it difficult.
So, Banks, you were there with me when we met with Supervisor of Elections, Lake County Supervisor of Elections, Alan Hayes. We met with him, and the whole idea of the meeting was the first we're going to talk to him and understand what's going on with the election process in Lake County. Me and you met with him. We had this
Mhm.
great conversation. I said, "Look, this conversation could go just as well on the podcast." He was convinced. He was fine with us. He was impressed with us. We had a great conversation in his office. No video, no holding him to anything said. We just had a great conversation. He did the podcast. And we talked about just that mail-in voting. I said, is mail-in voting secure? On the podcast, I asked a question. I said, we've got a guy that's been saying he was robbed of an election. We've got supervisor elections all across the country, dedicated, adamant lieutenants of the Republican conservative movement saying there was nothing wrong with the election. He keeps saying there was something wrong with it. Alan Hayes confirmed to me in numerous ways, especially mail-in voting was a topic covered a lot on the podcast. Many, if not all, of the election officials are trained in signature verification. When they receive that mail-in ballot, they know why the swirl is there. They know, I mean, you got to watch Alan explain it better than me, but it is extremely secure, was in a nutshell what he was saying. So, and like he said, Lake County could very well be considered the gold standard across the nation of supervisor efficiency and supervisors of election efficiency and election safety and election honesty. And so we've got this understanding. We have this understanding that we don't need to revamp all the technology to really believe in our election system. Let's make it more on a national level. Like you said, let's make mail-in voting on a national level. Uh, Mail-in voting is critical. It's going to be a wave in the future. I just don't see it's a wet print. It's a wet print document. It comes in the mail, which our mail system has been a great service to us for 100 more years. It's critical. In Florida, we do have this. I feel like it's an obstacle. I don't know why everybody gets kicked off the mail-in voting list every 2 years. It comes as a big surprise to many people that their mail-in vote is no longer applicable because they didn't know they were going to get kicked off. We need to get the
But
word out, or we need to change the legislation.
it
But
was it was a law which in the last 2 or 3 years, the legislature and the governor signed in the state of Florida saying every 2 years you gotta gotta want to be back on. It's a law. That was and that was something that Alan Hayes talked about. So I mean, it starts at the legislature level. Our election law is basically state by state. And that's why Utah, their legislators said, yeah, let's make it easy. Let's make it less expensive. When you do a vote by mail, you don't have to worry about precincts. You don't have to worry about early voting. You don't have to worry about day of voting because everything is done through the postal service. And you save so much. You don't have to worry about machines either. I mean, most of the machines can be done, quickly. You don't have to buy more machines. Um, they have saved millions, probably, well, millions of dollars. I'm talking Utah. So this was a law that was passed by the legislatures. We need to change that to make sure everybody gets vote by mail. I would love on a federal level to have a federal holiday for day of election. The day of election, November, the first Tuesday of November, every 4 years, it is everybody gets off. So if you want to go in and vote that day, if you want to go in and take and hand your vote by mail ballot in that day, you can. Um, Make it easy, not harder to vote.
well, one thing I applaud about Florida is the early voting system in place. I love it. I vote early. I always vote.
Why do you choose that?
It's just a matter. It's just like you said. If there were a national holiday, I actually work for a theme park that couldn't close. That I wouldn't necessarily get the day off, but my schedule is nuts. And yours is too. So, for example, I have a podcast today. Then when we're done, I'm going to go to work. I started this morning with driving my kids to school. If today were the voter day, I wouldn't be able to make it to the polls. So, giving me that 2 week window gives me that I vote. I'm able to do it. I know. I look into it thoroughly. I know where to and voting early actually allows you to vote in any precinct,
Yeah.
basically. So if you vote early, you don't have to know the specific church or schoolhouse that you literally have to physically vote in on election day. So it really opens a window to just make sure I can vote. Make sure I'm speaking for myself at this moment in time. Make sure I can vote. If today, I'm just using this as an example. If today were the day, I don't know how I would get there. If I showed up and there was an enormous line, I would have to leave without voting. So
Right.
I
Right.
And so I show up on a day when I can literally sit there with a bottle of water and wait in line and thank the people for volunteering and helping along. I say thank you to everybody. you know,
Right.
um, so I applaud Florida for that. I did, and I think every state should have early voting. I think a lot of states do, and that's been criticized by some people who feel like it's not helping them, it's hurting them. And then whenever I have the discussion with people about how they still believe the guy who talked about being robbed of his election for 4 years. They still believe him. I say, look, the system's not perfect, but you know what? The reason it's not always perfected is because both sides benefit from the imperfections. If there was a true side that was losing out on the imperfections, they would fight harder to fix those imperfections.
Well, you bring up something called fairness, okay? Yeah. Let's talk about fairness. Let's make it fair for everybody. So, I mean, the way Utah does it is they send out vote by mail to everybody
I would love that.
almost 2 months before the election. And you get it for 2 months to call up the people running, to text them, to email them, to whatever, to invite them to your house and say, hey, if I lived in Utah, they could invite me to their house. I would come. I do door knocking, so I do visits to the people's houses, and sit down and argue my point to vote for me. And you get that for 2 months, okay? And then you, the day of the election, can then take that ballot and you can hand it to the vote by mail. You can no the supervisor election. You can just go in and hand it to the person. Um, that makes it fair for everybody, not just for Democrats, not for Republicans, not for independents. No, everybody gets it. And it makes it easier for the election to take place. You don't have this rush of people in line. Now, granted, some people love to be in line. That's fine. You like to do early voting and be in line and thank everybody. You can take that to the supervisor elections and thank the actual supervisor election. Alan Hayes, thank you. Here's my ballot. Thank you, lady Michelle behind the counter. Thank you, Tina, who works there. Thank you, Richard, who also works there. So I mean, you can still have that. Some people are believe in an old way of voting on the day of election. Well, we have 334 million people in our country. And basically, what is it? Well, I think that's how many vote, or close to it. That's how many vote. That's tough on the day of election to get all the information, all the ballots in, to count the ballots, to then release the results of the ballot. So that's why I believe in.
I actually absolutely 110% agree with you. I would love that 2 month window. I would love that 2 month window to literally show up at a meet and greet with 9 candidates and say, I have my ballot right here with me, and I'm about to make a final decision after this meeting. And first of all, whoever doesn't show up for the meeting, he's not getting my vote. Then whoever else I talk to, I'm going to make my decision from there, whoever's there.
Right.
And if I don't get to if it's such a busy room and I don't get to ask a question, well, you know what? I'll feed off everybody else's questions and every candidate's answers. There's no issue in me having to have a moment to ask my particular question. I'll get a lot of knowledge from everything going on in the room. I think that's a great system in place. And when I talked to Alan, the system in place that verifies the signature, the systems in place that make sure voting by mail is extremely, extremely authentic and secure. It's
Yeah.
in place.
Here's
And
the great,
so,
yeah. Here's the great thing about that is you have the ballot, you sign your name on the ballot, you put down your email and your phone number on the ballot. Okay. I mean, those are optional. You can do it if you want to. You hand it to the supervised elections. The first thing they do is they verify your signature. That signature does not match your voter card signature. There's a phone number there. They'll give you a call. Hey, Banks, your signature doesn't match. We cannot accept this ballot. Would you come down? And if I hand my ballot in, a month before the election, they're calling me up if there's an issue. They're texting me, they're emailing me. Can you come down and verify your signature? I come down, fill out a signature card again. Hey, Banks, guess what? We have to give you an envelope too. Could you sign the envelope with your ballot in it? Boom, sign it. Okay, it now matches. Guess what? We're going to count your vote. Boom,
right.
they count the vote. So as far as fraud in our elections, every single place, every single way where you go, they have fail-safe measures to make sure your vote gets counted and that is who you are. I mean, in the future, we will vote online and we will have whatever iris verification or thumb verification or some sort of verification. And this whole thing about, oh my God, it was a fraudulent election. Sore losers. Just show us. There's been 4 years. Show us the evidence that shows that there is widespread fraud. You know what? There's like 3 or 4 ballots in Lake County which were fraudulent.
And they
Some
were caught though.
yeah, they
They were
got caught.
caught.
It's like 4 ballots. An election needs thousands and hundreds of thousands of ballots to be fraudulent like that. They caught it in Lake County, which means there was no fraud. There
Right.
were people trying to fraud the system
But
that
they
were,
got caught.
yeah, they
They
got caught.
addressed it.
You can only vote in Pennsylvania. You can't vote in both Florida and Pennsylvania, and they catch that.
They caught
Yeah,
it.
I do feel very comfortable and very um that Alan Hayes is doing a great job.
We had that conversation with them.
And the supervisor of elections around the country. I mean, there's differences between each. Of course, there's difference between each. In Arizona, it's different the way it is in Florida, in Montana, in Missouri, in Texas, and California. So yeah, I mean, show the, you know what? Show me the money. Show me the evidence.
Well,
And there was no evidence shown.
it's interesting when you mentioned, say, Montana or Wyoming, right? Just
Yeah.
you're just saying that like just like okay, so I was getting calls. They haven't counted all the votes and they're already calling the state for Trump. And I'm like, listen, the votes they have not counted are in very conservative districts. They're gonna go in Trump's direction. The 10,000 or the 50,000 or the 70,000 votes Kamala needs to win that state will not come in from those districts. So the reality is they can legitimately call those areas. They could call those states where we saw something. And again, I'm not going to get into it, but there was a lack of enthusiasm. States they could easily call for Kamala Harris. They couldn't even call till 6 and 7 p.m. at night because there wasn't the enthusiasm. There wasn't the voters running to the voter stations to vote for her. She did
Yeah.
win the states as was expected, but there wasn't that level of enthusiasm that you need. And I am proud to be a part of the party that acknowledged that we lost and facilitated a peaceful transition of power. So and my point is that whether I'm a part of that party or not, I've discussed this with Alan Hayes, the supervisor of elections in Lake County. We had a discussion in his office together. I had a discussion with him later on the podcast. If voting is secure, then like you said, if that's no longer an issue, and sure we always need to tweak it, sure we always need to question it, but the reality is that it works and very well and better than anywhere in the world. And it's apparently better in Lake County than anywhere in the country, which is just great to know.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the next step is how do we engage young people, which is something we started on and I showed when there's something at stake for them, they show up. And how do we and that's how do you engage young people when you're because that vote could really make the difference for you. That younger vote, that younger newer voter could really make the difference for you in every election.
Um, well, as a candidate, I care about all the constituents, whether you're 18 years old or 17, going to be 18 by the time you vote, to 118. I don't know the oldest person in my district. So I care about all of them. And instead of me lip servicing, I care, I have to show that I care. Okay. Which means I have to convince them that I care. Okay. And that is to be in front of them, to ask them, hey, may I help you? What is your situation? How can I help you with that situation? Once you help somebody, no, back up. Once you care about somebody, then you have to convince them that you care. How can I help you? And then you get to that point where you help them, they're like, oh my God, this is not like all the other politicians that are out there. He actually cares. He's actually found a solution to take you through this. Now, my pig farmer friends, uh, they see the progression of like, wow, why is Banks doing this? I am doing this because I care, and I care to represent them. And here's the thing when it comes down to it. The biggest party, the biggest pot of resources in town is government. Okay. At a state level, it is state government, which means that pool of resources, I can help my 151,000 constituents so well. I can do that. I mean, with money, with resources, with information, with education. Because with my friends the pig farmers, when they were going through it, they were like, I don't know what I'm doing. And most people don't know government. So how do you do it? You break it down and go, we need to go to this hearing and get through this hearing and get approval. And then this hearing. And then guess what? Now you can do it. So that's one. You have to care. Then you have to, for me, for the young kids, you have to empower them. I'm a member, actually, I'm the president of the South Lake Democratic Club. We have now a Lake Youth Democratic Club. And the youth, the president is 17 years old. And I went to the 17-year-old and I said, hey, Ethan, I want you to come to our meetings. He lives, well, he does live in this area. And I want you to join the club. If you don't want to pay the $10, I will pay the $10 so you can join the club. He's like, no problem, I'll join the club. And I want you to shadow me as president. What? You want me to shadow you? Yes, I want you to shadow me because guess what? I'm not going to be president forever. And I want you to take over the presidency. So you see how I'm empowering him to go like, oh my God, he's asking me for my advice. He's asking me to participate. He's asking me to be a part of this. And once you empower them, then they are lifted up. Now, the other thing is the ask. We need to ask the younger generation to participate. They're not going to do it on, some of them are not going to do it on their own, but you need to say, would you join us? Would you join us and in 2 years make a Senate or help to make the House prevalent with Democrats, prevalent in the Senate too? The ask is so important because when people are asked, they become a part of the solution. Oh my God, he asked, he cares about me enough that he wants me to be a part of it. My God, I want every single registered voter in South Lake County to be a part of the solution. So anyway, yeah, care, empower the kids, and by caring, we have to listen to them.
So there's a Lake County Youth Democratic Club, right? And
Yep,
and you've
County
got
young Democrats.
Young Democrats, Lake County Young Democrats.
I was at their Fourth of July picnic yesterday.
Wow.
Rita Harris, who is a state representative in Orlando, was there. I got a chance to meet her. The Act Blue youth coordinator was there, Jose. We had Barbie Hardin, who's running for Congress. She was there speaking. We had who else do we have? We had Dennis, who is on council in Mount Dora. Here's something cool. Mount Dora has 7 members on city council. 5 of them are Democrat, and 2 I think are NPAs or independents, and 2 are LGBTQ. I mean, Mount Dora is doing great things. I spoke briefly. We had a gentleman from the Josh Wheel Senate campaign there. Gavin was there speaking. And there was a group of maybe 20, 25 of us. People came from the area. It was put on by a 17-year-old boy and his 6-member board. He invited me to come, and I was like, of course I'll come. It was actually in my district too. So the ask is so important. when I spoke, I basically looked at the 6 members who were there, the young members, and I said, I'm talking to you 6 here. I'm not talking to Barbie. I'm not talking to Rita. I'm talking to you 6 because we are here because of you. You are our future. And not only our future of our club or our party, the future of US,
Of
you know?
America.
Yeah.
I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. That's the old saying goes.
Who
I
holds
like that.
tomorrow? The
Our
youth.
future, our
Yeah.
young people. Yeah, and we need to get them engaged, and we need to get them engaged, and that's
Yeah.
something I'm gonna. That's another thing I'm working on as we speak. Is I haven't announced it, but I'm working on something to launch because I want young people involved. I really think that's vital, especially now where we're going through what we're going through, where there's a sort of a reset of everything. And I'm not happy with the reset. I'm not happy with the destructive approach. Some say it's not a destructive approach. I'm not so sure it's not. But if we're going to have this reset, if we're going to have this crisis, let's not waste this crisis. Let's find a way to build on it and to
Um,
improve.
my friend Amber, she is with Florida Equality. She had a great take on what's going on right now in our country. Um, and she said chaos eats chaos. And for the last 6 months, it's been extremely chaos. I mean, we've been in wars, we've been in tariff wars, we've been in physical wars in Iran. Uh, we have a budget now that is, what is it, $4 trillion, puts us in debt. All these things that are happening, and chaos will eat chaos. At some point, this chaos, which we're living in, every 4 hours, there's some sort of something happening in the world, in our country, and it will just eat itself to the point where it will simplify out. And you're talking about that now, like, this is a highly disruptive time in our lives. The other thing I want to say is that I just found out, I was listening to a podcast of news, and the what has happened in the past, what's happened in the past 10 years, but it's really happened very shortly, the last about year, less than a year, is that the dollar is decreasing in value. And it used to be the dollar was always something to you always, it was calm, you could make money by putting money into the dollar. And now investors are not putting the money into the dollar. They're putting it into other countries, or they're taking money out of the stock market and going, let's put it in Germany, or let's put it in England, or let's put it in other indexes. And that was, I mean, and that's because I think, I mean, I agree with, it's because of the chaos that's happening. People want to have some sort of calm, hey, we believe in a direction, and we're going in the direction, and we're not going. I mean, our country now is just like, we are all over the place. Every 4 hours we've got some other reaction, and it is because of this administration, where it's the whim of, you know
One
of
man.
one person. Yeah.
And you don't know what that whim's gonna, he switches gears faster than a Yamaha. You don't know which direction he's going every 15 minutes, I mean, and
I
we're
I had a
in it.
Honda. Yeah, I had a Honda. So
I used to say faster than a Harley, and some motorcycle guy said Harleys don't switch gears fast. So I said, okay, let me change it up a little.
okay.
And then,
I
but
mean, go ahead.
no, I mean I will get through this 4 years, and somehow we'll make some sense of it. I don't imagine the next 4 years will be anything like it, no matter who's president. Um, Somehow we'll make sense of it, but I think it's a good time it's a good time where we tell young people you really need to get your eye on the game because
I don't think they want to listen to us boomers, um, Jeff. I don't think we tell them anything. We listen to them.
I
Um,
would love to. Yeah, I want to hear from them. Yeah.
one of the things that I've heard recently is that um, boomers are getting in front of kids nowadays and saying, "Hey, listen, we have messed up our environment, our earth, where we live, and you know what? We want you to fix it for us." No, no, that's not what they want to hear. They don't want to be like, "Okay, the burden's on us." No, what they want to hear is, "We have messed it up," and we have messed up the whole carbon exchange, everything. And what they want to hear is, hey, would you help us fix it? That's what they want to hear. And that's that's what I think we need to do.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, tell them. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, help us get it right, because we are
Yeah.
not yet getting it right, and we are
No, not environmentally. And you
no.
know what? Over the next what is it, 100 and no, 1,000, 1,200, and I think it's 92 days. That's this administration's time period. Um, eh, there is a learning that's happening. I think that we need to become resilient to what's going on. And we need to turn inward and look for sustainable practices. And I'm talking, I mean, I live on a sustainable farm. I live in a house that's 874 square feet. It's tiny. I don't need, I mean, my my door's open right now. There's no screen. The wind's blowing through. The door over here is open. So air is just going back and forth. So we need, I'm just
So
telling you how
nice.
simple
That's so nice, though.
my
It's fresh and
existence is.
beautiful. Yeah.
Um, we need to find ways to be sustainable. And that's something that I see on my farm where people come and they tour the farm and they're mainly under 45. Most of them are under 45. I'm just seeing this now and they're young families, and they want to be sustainable or self-sustainable. They do not want to be dependent on government or business or their job. They want to do it on their own. And my whole life, I've always had this independent streak. I mean, I was NPA and an independent. I always wanted to do my own thing and raise my own food and grow my own crops and collect my own rainwater and use solar to give me my own electricity. So the point is there's a big push, a hunger, and maybe over the next 1,292 days, that will happen. People will be like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna grow my own garden, even if it's a pot, even if it's a windowsill garden, just to be more independent.
Yeah, and that's something that I believe you're going to take part in, is teaching kids more about farming in some of the schools in Groveland. Isn't that correct? Or
Uh, I once a month here at Florida Blue, the insurance company, Florida Blue, they bring me into their centers in Winter Garden and also, no, Winter Park and Claremont. And I do usually a 45-minute interactive, nah, it's not me talking, but garden class, farming class. And I bring in stuff from my farm that I have growing. I give it away. I share with people. I found out that there are other farmers that show up there with me that I've met through, it's been about a year since I've been doing this. And they bring their stuff and we exchange. So there's this synergy that's happening where here in Claremont, we had like 47 people. We had more people than the room could hold. And there's just this hunger. And I don't know if the hunger is to learn more, or if the hunger is I'm giving away all this product, or and I'm not talking about I give away food because I don't grow stuff so much. I don't harvest stuff. If you want to harvest, you come out here and you harvest it. I don't want to. I just want to grow stuff. I go out and I give clippings and share. So I don't know if it's that, but I think there is this compulsion for people to be like more self-sustainable. And you know, you can have the argument that our cancer rates are higher and our asthma rates are higher and autism is on the rise. I mean, there can be an argument in there that we have gotten away from the land. We've gotten away from breathing fresh air. Um, so.
there could very well be that argument, because even during COVID, they were saying when people started staying indoors all the time, they were getting sicker because they were avoiding the out and about, and that changed a lot of people's health outlook. So there is definitely that argument. I don't know how much research and how much how much documentation has been done on it. But the truth is, the way you live is pretty neat. I think it's great that you're literally living, farming your own food for the most part. Like you said, if you need condiments, you pretty much got to buy them. But,
Yeah.
um, and that whole energy efficient house where it's a beautiful day out, the air is blowing from both sides of the house, blowing inside from both directions of the two doors being open. And there is going to be there is all that movement happening. And then when it happens naturally, when it happens voluntarily, when it happens from people really seeking the information, it has a bigger and better result than federal legislation does. And um and we are on the party where we argue on behalf of all sorts of enormous legislation and regulation, and that may not always be the answer. A lot of the answer may be through education, which is always what I say is really my jam. Education is really maybe the answer. And I am going to start reaching out to young people, and we are going to publish another website that's really geared towards young people. And um I think that's the solution, really, is politicians like you that are doing the job before you even get the job. Simple, simply put, doing the job. You're helping this one family in particular and like you said, it's just they don't even know where to begin sometimes. The legislation, the legal documentation can be so complicated, they won't even know where to begin. And then people are like, oh, just YouTube it. No, you may not be that simple. You really need a guy that really has his finger on and has the knowledge and has his finger on the button of how to get this done. And that's what we need is more legislators and more lawmakers like that, like you, that are going to be you know, I I was just reading about Angela Ocasio-Cortez in her district, and she's never there, and she's never in her office, and she's out flying on private jets, and she's thinking about running for president. There was a lot of complaints from her own constituents that but she's constantly getting reelected. No matter how many complaints they have about her, she just gets reelected. We need to change that. We need to change the whole mindset of what people are looking for in their political leaders. We want a proactive political leader. It's literally going to be there when we ask it to be there. It's literally going to show up at the meetings. It's literally going to pick up my phone calls. I don't care how important he feels he is. I don't care if he even got a call from the president to meet him in the White House. That only takes an hour and an hour to fly over there. You still got entire days, and you still got all sorts of communication sources to get back with your constituents. So
Right. You talk about complaining. You mentioned that just now. And that is pe people. I don't know if they like to complain. I'm not sure. I try to refrain from complaining. However, I did speak with somebody recently, maybe in the last few days, and we were talking about the complainers out there. Um, so as you know, I speak at 7 city council meetings, and I stand up, and I'll speak for 3 to 5 minutes. And most of the people that stand up and speak are complaining about something. Okay, I understand. You complain about it, something will get done. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. And this person I was talking to said there's two different types of. I don't know if the person told me this or if I kind of extrapolated it. The person said there's two types of complainers. There's those that complain for attention. Okay, just complain, complain, complain. And then there are those who complain and they have a solution. And those who complain, if you bring a solution to me, by goodness sakes, I am going to work on finding a way to make that solution come to fruition. Because those that have come up with a solution already have already thought the problem through and gone, you know what, this works better. Boom, this works better. And you see it with scientists, you see it with in academia where they have this issue and they're like, we need to find a way to resolve this issue. So I'm always looking for people who want to come to me with a solution. And we discuss it, we talk about it. I might argue the solution, or I might give them other types of solutions. But that is the two types of people who complain.
and that's the dialogue that fixes things. The dialogue where you got the issue, but yeah, what's the solution? What's
Because
the
coming up with the issue, coming up with the solution is the toughest thing.
right, right. You've
I am
got the
constantly
complaint.
talking to people and or listening to people and thinking, well, what's their issue? And once I can get their issue, then I'm thinking, well, how do we fix this? How do we deal with this? So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Banks, This has been again another incredible conversation, and we're gonna do it again. We actually did set out to talk about a specific topic, but the topic we got on was way better. So and I'm very happy about that because that is how this goes. We ad lib. We don't have prepared statements for one another. We get into the crux of things and we just talk it out. And that's the what we did. We did just that. We have some challenges with the way things are going, and we also have solutions. And
Hmm.
that's what really is going to make the difference in the long run. So before we go, I want to thank you, of course, and I want to mention Political No Brainer, the podcast. Political No Brainers on Spotify and Apple and iHeart and all those outlets. But tell us about you. Tell us how to whatever you want to tell us. Your phone number, your website, your we want you to win. I want you to win, Banks. I talked to somebody. They said it's definitely the third one is the charmer. You can't just get in the game of politics and win on your first try. Some have. I believe Alan Hayes is one of them, but not everybody has done that. And you are on your third. You are on the what? You are on the road to victory. I think we discussed that early on. Tell us how we get a hold of you, how we know all about you.
Well, Banks Helfrich, .com. And it's easy to remember Banks Helfrich because bank, where you put money, shelf, where you put a book, rich, opposite of poor.com. So that might be an easy way of learning it. My ex-wife told me that with my email.
I like
Um,
that.
yeah. Reach out to me if you have any issues. I that's what I do. I give my card to people and say, I think I can help you. I think I can help you. How may I help you? And sometimes that ask to help comes back and people like will call me up. But and that's what I do. That's what I get juiced up about. I mean, I don't drink anymore. So the way I get, I guess, high now, the way I get excited about things is like finding solutions. So yeah, you can do that. I'm in South Lake County, so that Lake County, Florida. Reach out to me with any questions you have. And you know what you can do, Coach Trippy? You can tell five of your friends.
I will. I do. I tell them all the time. I talk about you all the time. I talk about you. And I will say this right now. Every time I've reached out to Banks, he responds. So expect that he will respond.
No thanks.
Every text, call, he picks up the phone, text, call, he responds. He never leaves me hanging. I look at my phone, I go, wow, he texted me back already. So,
Okay.
and I'm very always happy to get that response. So thank you. I will tell five of my friends. I'm always, I'm out there, out and about, and I'm always talking. I was getting my hair cut, and I go, you got to check out Banks. I'm sure he's in the area right now. I'm sure if I walk out on the street, he'll be out here somewhere. But,
If
um,
if you
so
yell his name, I'll
we go
hear
to the same
it.
barber. I was calling her Barbara, and then you said her name is Denise, and I'm like, you're right. I guess I just connected Barbara at Barber. I don't
Yeah,
know where the hell I got Barbara from, but her name is Denise. I
yeah,
did just was there the other day, and
yeah.
she's the greatest, and she talks about you. I talk about her.
Good,
Uh,
good.
I
Thank
talk to
you.
you about her. So it's great seeing you, Banks. We're gonna do this again. I am going to reach out to you again. So
Sure. You know where I am.
absolutely,
Some,
sir. Absolutely. Thank you
sometimes a
so
little bit
much.
late, but you know where I am.
I know, sir. I'll always find you, or I'll go find you at Cheezers. Or
Yeah. All
thanks,
right.
Banks. Have a great
Thanks, Jeff.
day.
You
Thank you.
too.